Hello everyone, Storm 101 here today. We'll be talking about the tropics. We got a major hurricane, G word. I'm not going to try to pronounce that name there. I'm just going to call it, a G name storm. We also got two systems to talk about, disturbances in the Atlantic, and it's becoming a little bit more concerning for the United States. We'll be talking about that stuff. But first, let's talk about a major hurricane in the Eastern Pacific. We got this G named storm here, 125-mile-per-hour winds, and it was a Category 4 hurricane, and now it's back down to a Category 3 hurricane, and it's just, dying out. If we click on here, uh, look into their cone here, you can see here it's expected to stay a major hurricane kind of throughout tomorrow as well. This starts to die into a hurricane by Thursday. Then by Friday, tropical storm. It should die out pretty much by the weekend there. But it does have tropical storm winds can hit portions of Mexico there. You can see your tropical storm warnings as well, and that's really the only impact. And really, the primary threat should be gusty winds and a decent amount of rain as well. And this is what it looks like here on satellite imagery. Very organized hurricane here, but some dry air starting to get to the circulation. You can see a big lot of dry air here. You can also see here for the past few hours, there's now more of yellows and oranges. So this is an indication that this storm is dying out at this time here. You can see what the intensity guidance there. It's now a high-end Category 3. It was a Category 4, but now you can see here it's going to be dying very quickly over the next couple of days, and it doesn't really have any other threat to land afterwards as well. So that's the Eastern Pacific out of the way. Well, Central Pacific here, not too big of a deal. Low end 10% there. Go back to Eastern Pacific, a low end 30%. Not too much really to worry about with the Eastern Pacific. Good news is it is calming down since last time I made a video about the Eastern Pacific. So that's some good news there. Now let's move on to the Atlantic. So we got two disturbances to watch here. We got Invest 97L, which is right here. They just upgraded to a high-end 80% chance in the next 5 days. You also got this one here, which is in the next 48 hours. It's also been upgraded to 90%. Same thing for the next 5 days. So really, pretty much at this point here, these two here will likely develop. It just depends when it's going to happen and also how strong it's going to be and also where it's going to go. We have some uncertainties of where these two systems will be going. It seems like Malden in a better grave at this here will be going north of the Lesser Antilles, but this could also pose a threat to the southeast of the United States, which some also been hinting on that. Then you also have 97L that also has a threat to the Gulf Coast states. So this is going to be a little bit concerning here from both of these systems here. And I'll say these here will likely develop into a tropical depression. Uh, it's kind of a mess on this system here right now. We have multiple circulations and they're kind of fighting each other. And you also have dry air just to the north of it. You got a little bit of wind shear. So Invest uh, 98L is having a really hard time here. And when we can get a more favorable environment, and also as well as a more dominant circulation, then it'll start to gain some strength. And I believe it's kind of similar to disturbance number one there. But let's go ahead and take a look into 98. Let's actually start off with 97L right here. You can see it's very disorganized right now. Some dry air seems to be gotten into the storm, and maybe perhaps a little bit of wind shear with this here. Now, let me tell you guys something first of all. The models have been doing terrible the hurricane season. The good the good news about these hurricane models this year is they've been doing pretty well with the tracks. The bad news is they've been underestimating or overestimating the intensity. So whenever I'm going to be showing you guys the intensity guidance, you could probably take this as a grain of salt here because they've just been doing terrible so far this hurricane season. And let me tell you, it's pretty bad. But again, like I said, the tracks here, This is the CMC, which it did not do well with Isaias at all. Although you can see here where it's actually going to be going, and you can see some of the members are actually kind of make it stationary a little bit. You can see here, here's one right there. You got another one right there. Got another one right here. I mean, it's just very spread out. Really, the entire Gulf Coast states has a threat to the system here. It just really depends, and where I'm seeing, kind of stay stationary, kind of sticking around one area, kind of gets me concerned here for some flash flooding into for some of these areas in here. Although you do have a cluster of models here going towards Florida and kind of the southeastern portion of the states. Now, during around the same time here, there's going to be a trough right here, and what that trough is going to do, it's I think it has a better chance of turning a little bit more to the east here. Although I haven't really looked too much into that yet, but I will take a look into it and see what the models are showing for troughing. But I do know that there is going to be some troughing nearby, so we're going to keep an eye on that. You can see here with some of these models here, these reds here indicate pressure either between, 990 to down to 970 millibars here, you know. So that's not good news there. Although you do have more yellows and greens, so that's kind of in a weaker stage of all things there. But yeah, really, I'll say at this point here that the Gulf Coast states does have a threat for 97L. Although if it does go into between Cuba and portions of Mexico here, that's not going to be good news because that can make the storm stronger because it'll be over the waters and not hit any land. However, if it does hit to portions of Mexico there, it could be much weaker. If it hits Cuba, it may get a little weaker, but although I do believe it will recover if it hits uh, if it hits Cuba or Mexico. I think it will recover either way. It just depends on the tracker. You can see the mean here does keep it in between Mexico and Cuba, and that's something we do not want to see to happen. So that's be something to really keep an eye on. And also the waters in the Gulf of Mexico are extremely warm, so that's also not good news either. The warmest of the waters is actually around Louisiana right now, so with temperatures up to 30 to maybe 31 degrees Celsius. That's extremely warm. If you compare it to Fahrenheit, that's mid to upper 80s. So that's definitely something we really need to keep an eye on here. The GFS ensemble's not really catching up into it. You only have one member with it, so there's still a lot of uncertainties with 97L, and you can tell there it does have some convection, try to come back here. So we're going to keep an eye on this here, 97L, very closely. And here's the hurricane models that have been doing a pretty good job with, tracking the storm. And right now, there's a large of uncertainties here. You got one going up into Alabama, Mississippi. You also have a cluster of models taking it for Mexico and probably pose a threat to Mexico and Texas there, which far over Texas got affected by Hannah. So, and really most of these states here got affected with at least one system. Uh, really, so far this season here, and some of these states can get a second one, which is definitely possible for some of these states here, so that's not good. Big say we're starting to get some new malls, and actually both of these malls actually keep on continuing to the west and actually hit Central America and actually going into the Eastern Pacific. So we're really going to have to keep an eye on the tracks very closely here. So there's still uncertainties with the tracks, and there's still uncertainties with the intensity as of right now. And here's the intensity guidance, by the way. And as you can see here, we have really a cluster of models bringing it to tropical storm, and you got a cluster of models kind of keeping it around tropical depression and weak tropical storm status. So we're going to keep an eye on this very closely. So again, still some uncertainties here with 97L, and right now it's just pretty disorganized. So we're going to see how 97L is going to go. Okay, let's move on to 98L, which is kind of raising my concerns right now with this system right here. You can see here It's a daggone mess. It really is. Although you kind of see your circulation kind of near center of the screen, you do have convection all over the place. I'm going to guess there's some dry air and wind shear getting involved with this system here as well. If it does get closer to Bermuda High, it will hit some more dry air. So that's kind of make it a little bit weaker there. But let's go take a look for some of these models here. So now I believe this is the no, this is the hurricane models. You can see here again, there is still some uncertainties here. If it goes right through, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and even for Cuba, it's going to be much weaker, for sure. Maybe even die out, and maybe even get into Cuba. You got a couple models showing that solution. You also got a couple models bringing it to the Caribbean, which is not good either. Another not good thing, probably a similar track what Isaias did. You have a cluster of models missing pretty much most of these islands, pretty much further to north, and that's not good news because that's going to make it the system stronger. And these models here have been doing a really good job with the tracks, but really past the 3 day mark, there's some uncertainties here. So there'll be definitely something to keep an eye on very closely there. Now this is the GFS ensembles here, which we're actually having a better agreement with this here. The bad news is it actually has an effect for Florida. You can see here a good chunk of models actually hit, or members actually hit kind of in eastern Florida. And you can see here, and most of them actually keep it out to sea, be more of a fish storm. And you can see there how the pressure is for some of these members show us could be below 950 millibars. That is that's kind of impressive, right there. But there's still a lot of uncertainties this far out because we're still getting models kind of going maybe South Florida, east of Florida, even going down to the Caribbean. I mean, we're just not really 100% sure, really beyond. I think we'll have a better idea when it reaches to the Lesser Antilles. I think we'll have a better idea on the tracks here, but probably still not so much for Florida. We'll figure that out as it kind of gets closer with that. Here's the Canadian model. It actually has something very similar to it. You can see here how Florida, again, has some effects. Actually gets hit. And you can actually see there some of the members actually kind of keep it stationary, which is not good news at all. You can see here with some of the majority of models actually keep it as a fish storm. So the best case scenario at this point here is this can be a fish storm at this point. That's the best case scenario at this point. Secondary best case scenario if it just hits, Puerto Rico. What it's not good for them guys, but it's better for people later down the road, like the United States, in the Bahamas. If it hits the Dominican Republic and Cuba, like some models have been indicating, that'd be the secondary best case scenario. The worst case scenario is going to be where it misses all the islands and takes a hit towards Florida and kind of stays stationary and then moves back out to sea and kind of moves a little bit more to the northeast. And not only Florida, Georgia can have an effect as well. So definitely something we need to keep an eye on here very closely here. But I think we'll have a better idea on the track when it gets closer to the Lesser Antilles, which is the next 3 days or so, which I think it may try to develop at that point. Probably at least be a tropical storm when it gets to the Lesser Antilles where there's a little bit of a better environment. And here's the intensity guidance here. The majority of models are actually keeping it in tropical storm status, although you do see a couple models do bring it towards a category 2 hurricane. And I believe those are probably models that are probably the solution where it's a little bit further north there, which if we kind of go back here, so you have the HWFI model, which it actually keeps it a little bit further to the south there, actually more to the Caribbean, which it kind of makes a little bit sense because the Caribbean's actually it's going to be a favorable environment. And you also got the kind of the ship model, which actually does not pop up on here. That's not it though, but so really I think at this point here, I think it will likely get to tropical storm I think it's really kind of depend on how rapidly it can intensify and where the system is going to be going. Will be the two things to keep an eye on. Same thing for 97L. So let's actually take a look into the European model. And like I said, models have been doing completely garbage. This is the G name storm, a major hurricane, which is now Category 3. It is showing a Category 1 hurricane. I mean, that is extremely well underdone. I mean, that's kind of disappointing. GFS is basically the same thing. Now, they're not high-res models, but that's kind of terrible when you think about it. And we cannot get the NAMNES that far out, though, since it's not a global model. So here's Invest 97L. We're going to kind of go backwards a little bit, and you can see here. Let's turn on right here. It's right here. Looks like it takes a hit into Mexico, and it seems like it doesn't really survive. Well, actually, that may be it right there. Kind of hard to tell right there. It's also hard to tell where 98L is at that point. Um, so here's 98L right over here. Dies out too, but when some models done this before, it actually kind of maintained its strength and actually kind of strengthened. So kind of take these models here as a grain of salt. The GFS actually does a little bit better job at keeping it up. You also had 97L right over there taking effect into Mexico. You got 98L actually heading into Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, which is actually recording probably at this point tropical storm winds. I know it's showing 35 miles per hour, but I think that'd be underdone. So I think at this point here, between the European model and the GFS, I think the GFS will probably do a little better job. It also kind of takes a direct hit through Dominican Republic, uh, which I believe that's 98L there again. I'm at 97L. Things like 97L die out. It actually pops up right there. That's what it looks like. Here, let's back this up. Yeah, very broad circulation. You probably have multiple circulations at this point here. Then you get a dominant circulation, which pops up north of Cuba and takes an effect for it. But I'll take a grains of salt for right now since that is very far out. We're still 7 to 10 days out before landfall for southeastern United States for 98L, and that's kind of similar to the same timing for 97L. So we'll be keeping an eye on these storms here very closely. We'll have a better idea as it kind of gets to the lesser Tillies. But anyways, guys, this is all for you guys today. Hope you guys did enjoy this tropical update. If you guys would like this tropical update, hit the like button. If you really do like my channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, you can put in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys' questions. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.